Package 6, and it's actually about research and innovation. But what it is really interesting conversations that we've been having for a year, that you guys have been having for the past few days about artistic research. And we're going to speed through, hopefully, this presentation like I've sped through everything else, but because there's experts in this room who we'd like to hear from, we'd like to talk to. Like, it's an open forum. Again, like I said earlier, we're evolving and we want to hear ideas. So what we're going to do for this presentation is just give you some of the key ideas that have come out from it, but there has been already a 45-minute video that's on our website, open for everybody, that talks more in depth about some of the experts we've had come in to talk to us and some of the concepts that we're learning from. So please feel free to go look at it. But we're just going to give you a snapshot of some of the things and then hopefully open it up and we can talk. We're also at the very end going to talk about what the next step for this work package is, which is putting together PhD proposals and trying to bring in our first bout of students. So that's kind of what that one was. So a big part of this process is trying to develop a PhD track that can be a collaborative supervisory model. But it's also the fact that, like everything I'm saying today, it's a really exciting time for us because artistic research is getting ground, it's getting legitimacy, and we're at the forefront of creative and cinematic practice. And we have a chance and an opportunity here to be the people at the forefront of this debate, to set a transparent and approachable PhD track, an approachable place for researchers, for creatives to come and engage, whether it be in an XR lab, whether it be in publishing a paper, whether it be on a film together, that we can have a space to do that. And that is a really exciting thing. And it's been really exciting in Work Package 6 for the whole time. Obviously, what my notes and what the slides are up might not go together, but like everything in this, it's going to be a kind of a bottom-up approach. So if researchers have good ideas, we'll try to put them in contact with other researchers working in the same field. So it's not an isolated experience. Researching won't be just you sitting in your room or trying to get something done, but actually we use our network and we use the European-wide scale of this project to connect people together, to connect stories, to connect ideas. Exactly. And then the next is going to be a little input into artistic research and what we've come up with so far.
Thank you, Deirdre. I will fly as well because I also consider what will be important is the conversation afterwards. At this stage, what is very exciting is this group is that we have so many questions, and these are precisely what we want to share with you. These questions to provoke you intellectually in terms of the conversation we can have here. As basic ones, of course, what is artistic research? What shapes can it take, and why it's relevant for film schools, and how can we integrate it in our activities syllabus? What novel approaches to PhD education can we think of resorting to artistic education? And this sounds very simple, but it's not. To do this work, of course, we had to do quite a lot in terms of research from various sources. I can point out from this board something I find a key idea, this one, that artistic research is research done by artists as or as part of their artistic practice, because this seems to be relevant, because it's an idea that even from our speakers, it kept coming back again and again. In this model, we have an idea of a possible methodology to go from film practice to artistic research. And the important question here is, how can film media practice function not just as the objects of research, but as entities in which and through which our knowledge and our understanding can grow? Because we realize that even us, me working in the group, speaking with Verly, realize that sometimes we still have this doubt and this fear of how the evaluation process will take place. and the outcomes. But in terms of the path of research of someone that wants to develop, to do a PhD in this field, the path and the evaluation procedure and the methodology can be as rigorous as in any other science field. We were fortunate enough to have these 6 experts sharing with us their experience in the field. As Deirdre mentioned, the video is available. Massive thanks to Felipe Valle because he was supporting us all the way through to achieve this. So please do go to the FilmEU website. And from the speakers, I would just like to leave you with key ideas, food for thought. For instance, from Andrea B. Brett, this concept that artistic research is a research that goes beyond self-flexibility. So with just this concept, we run away from this notion, always like almost an academic joke from more conservative corners that to do artistic research is just for someone to just go out there and just do what you feel like without having any considerations. That's absolutely false. And we're setting a path that corrects this perspective. From Suzanne Elk, she left us as well with a set of provocative questions and ideas. And I would like to highlight this notion that as a researcher, you should be a practitioner. So it's precisely to do, following from Deirdre, this concept that we at FilmEU, and especially in this group, it is fundamental to make this bridge, to break this conservative bridge between theory and practice and valued academic research. In terms of Stephen Giles, what is important here is to understand these bubbles of thought that have been always present in these problematics. The issue of research on art, research through art, and research about art. And it's here that where usually the conflict arises. And what we need to understand, the puzzle here, is how can traditional researchers and artists cooperate? How can people that have gone through a traditional path in academia, how can they cooperate with artists? How can we involve artists so that it's natural and that they feel that they can be involved? Because we've been speaking here so far in terms of inclusion, diversity, in terms of gender, ethnical background, economic circumstances, but it's also in fields of work, because on various European countries, there is still this kind of divide between the practitioners and the researchers and the academics. How can we involve the filmmakers, the artists and creators so that academia is a more interesting, more dynamic space? And over to Deirdre.
A key idea that Carl McLaughlin pointed out was that all artistic research is inherently different. So the assessment of it will be inherently different. Sorry, slight height difference. And that each researcher has to set the boundaries for how they are assessed at the beginning of their project. So whether they create a feature film, whether they create a virtual reality sphere, that each examiner, and part of the transparent examiner would be trying to facilitate maybe a training in this, each examiner has to come to the project or each project with an open mind. It's not like science where you follow the route and in 4 years you're perfectly done the exact same thing as done before you. Maybe that's not what science is. Virla will absolutely kill me at the end of this. But it's that you look at what the researcher is trying to do, how they are positioning themselves in a lineage, and you judge them from their own criteria. And in that way, we would again be a place for freedom in terms of evolving what artistic research and artistic practice is. Elena Rusanova has talked highly about how they have 2 tracks for PhDs, a more traditional track and a practice-based track. But what was important was also about how they recruited their students in, you know, how they facilitated people who came, who maybe didn't have research as a strong background, who were maybe practitioners or craft, and how they developed, you know, a community within their institute for people coming and doing research from different areas. And I think that for us would be really important. And last time I talked about Yati, who was actually our first speaker. And what I found fascinating was that she was talking about the freedom that they enjoyed in the Southern Hemisphere from being outside of the Bologna Agreement. And again, throughout our talks, you know, we were thinking that this is such a pinnacle time that we can develop research, that we can go beyond Bologna and we can find a way that think to ourselves, how are we going to shape the future of research? How are we going to shape the future of cinema, even in our own small little way? And now, what's coming next is the hard part that Dahi and Virla will do.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Dahi McSheehy. I work in IADT's research office as head of research, and I've had the great pleasure of being involved in aspects of Work Package 6, and in particular the work we're doing at the moment, applying to the Mary Skłodowska-Curie Actions scheme for doctoral networks. And I'll spend a couple of minutes filling those of you who haven't been involved in on that process and giving an account of where we are and how it fits into the wider work of Work Package 6, and indeed the plans for RIT, which were so excellently launched earlier this week. So there's a team working on this application. I'd want to single out for special acknowledgement and praise our colleague Matthias Summers in the Research and Projects Office at Luca, who literally knows everything about this scheme, and indeed everything, but about this scheme in particular. And we have been so fortunate to have the benefit of that expertise in putting together this complex application. This proposal also involves our friends and colleagues in BFM in Tallinn. The MSCA scheme is one of the many aspects of European Union funding, and it sits alongside some of the schemes that many are familiar with in terms of the clusters of Horizon Second Pillar, the European Institute of Technology, and so on. But the MSCA scheme funds a number of initiatives around the development of researchers. And we're engaged in an application to the Doctoral Network Scheme, which was formerly known as ITNs, or Innovative Training Networks. And these are schemes that provide opportunities for researchers, for potential PhD candidates, but also strengthen the institutions and indeed the systems, the disciplines, the fields that are in question. What this means for us is the drafting of an application which addresses the excellence of what we're trying to do, the impact it will have, and how we would go about implementing it. So we're putting together this application on the broad theme of media constellations, and the discussions in the writing group have sort of explored the nascent field of media archaeology, the relations between past, present, and future, with an emphasis sometimes upon objects and technologies and artifacts. But what's quite interesting about the work that we're doing there is how that draws upon the work of Work Package 6 itself, on artistic research as approach and as method. And indeed, also media archaeology as a theoretical field has seen some significant development, particularly in Europe. There's a great opportunity and indeed a missing piece around how artistic research is applied to this specific field. And so, for instance, when we look at the strength of media museums in our countries, we see great collections, but also new opportunities or even missed opportunities to apply artistic methods to those collections in order to understand for instance, the evolution of media technologies. And in our work, we will seek to engage with various aspects of sound and vision. And so the scheme would ultimately, if we were successful in this application, would fund 10 places for PhD candidates. The focus here is on existing doctoral programs, although I'll say something brief at the end about how we go beyond that. And we've clustered our proposed doctoral topics into what are, for the purposes of the application, 3 work packages. One on decolonizing media heritage, which engages with colonial eras in a number of different manifestations across the participating countries. It imagines the role of the Media Museum as democratizing, inclusive, and a polyphonic space for critical dialogue, as the Association of Museums has put it, and applying a range of technological and creative approaches to important and controversial collections. And within that theme, there's a number of specific proposed projects. The second theme of personal media production takes us on a journey from Super 8 to 8-year-olds on TikTok, from phonograph cylinders to podcasts, and all points in between. And so again, we see the wider theme of FilmEU in engaging with film and media arts, presenting in a range of different contexts and asking questions about what really is past, present, and future, and how, as has been put in theoretical terms, the presence of a medium as a rear view mirror provokes us as researchers to explore contemporary conditions, as well as the development of new forms, of new industries, and of new modes of communication. Our third set of projects then relates to hybrid media forms, and specifically reception and production approaches. So projects there will engage with the development of touch interfaces and different forms of screens and readers, of the relationship between spectators, objects, and creators, including in a gallery context, the role of neuroscience in cinema studies, and indeed in the development of new forms of watching and viewing and participating. Now, one of the things that makes a Mary Sklodowska-Curie application distinctive is the emphasis upon the development of a cohort, by which we mean that all of the 10 doctoral researchers who would be recruited if we were successful will engage in their own projects and the own requirements of the doctoral program in which they are registered, but will also come together for training activities. And that can involve, the training in specific skills relevant to the doctoral project. It can involve the transferable skills that would be relevant for the range of career options that will be open to a researcher, but also seek to advance the debate, as you've already been hearing in our presentation today, around the role of artistic research, for instance, in the academy and in society, the development of new ways of understanding. So therefore, the institutions and the disciplines in which we work benefit from this joined up approach. It's also a requirement, and indeed a very welcome one, of MSCI schemes that researchers engage in secondments. They can be to other institutions, other academic institutions. They can also be to museums, to companies, to archives, and so on. And we seek in our proposal to try and link up supervisors from different institutions and from different backgrounds in order to build a vision of what doctoral research in this field looks like. And that, therefore, as we'll talk about in a moment, links to some of the wider goals of Work Package 6, where in due course we are looking at things like joint programs and models of supervision, of the integration of doctoral researchers into the pilots and the research groups that you heard presented in the introduction to RIT on Tuesday. It was Tuesday, wasn't it? It feels like a week where time comes and goes. So this is, in a way, is a first step. It's a bridge between the excellent work that Work Package 6 colleagues did in exploring and articulating the role of artistic research, and the work that we're going to go on and do in Work Package 6 and in RIT itself. But in practical terms, we're working hard on this for the funders deadline of the middle of November. And if we are successful, we would find out next April and be able to launch the project in August in order to recruit researchers shortly thereafter. So that's where we are on the MSCA application, and I'll now pass on to Fiorla, who will take us through the deliverables and the next steps and the excitement that lies ahead. Thank you so much.
So, Daiti, you already told a lot I wanted to tell. So I left my notes there, so I don't have to use my glasses that are on my head. So we have this nice extra project that is really linked with this work package. So everything we do here is really exploring and setting up small pilots. I don't think you will agree with me that the Marie Curie proposal is a small pilot. So, but this is the way how we want to look at how will we get to this dynamic research clusters? What are the strategies? How will we be able to join forces and find opportunities to work together very bottom up from the infrastructures we have? So we have to think about how will we also share the research, the hubs, so the FilmEU hub for these to be used in these dynamic research clusters. So in this work package, we really have to come up with these pilots and these models for joint supervision of PhDs. We have to work towards doctoral seminars so that we can bring researchers together and think about new fields we can further explore. It's also about valorization and dissemination. How will the work that is done in a cluster, how can we also bring it to the outside and come up with plans to also bring industry, society into relation with research. So it's a very nice work package, this one. So everything we can accomplish, because we also have this FilmEU writ in the end that also will bring this work package to a more extended version that we can really work on doing research within a project. So we will have pilots that really will tackle some domains and that we can also look at the best way to grow in these domains. So this is the thing I wanted to add to what was already said. So thank you very much.